We will start 4 lines from the top, Lamed Dalet. So far, it comes out that mitzvahs have an element that is higher than Torah. Because in Torah, both mitzvahs and Torah are both rooted and all representing Chochmei Lo Datzis. But there's a difference how it reaches us, how it reaches the world. In Torah, it reaches the world through the intermediacy, so to speak, an intermediate step of Malchus de Bria. Eiran Shoma Malchus de Bria. And because it goes through this Indian of Malchus de Bria, this is why it is possible for this oil to be established in Gashmius. And as we discussed that the Indian that in Torah it's established in Gashmius means that there is an actual hislapshus. You understand things understand Torah from a Gashmius perspective, which is a hislapshus, an element of hislapshus. Mitzvahs, on the other hand, there the Gili Chochmei Lo is direct, and the relationship there. Let me step back a little bit so we understand a little bit. This is the way we think which we already discussed. In Torah, even when you understand the seichel of Torah in Gashmius, and this is nimshach from Chochmei Lo, but the sense now was the oil that is in this seichel is the oil of Bria, of Neshama de Bria. It is not directly the oil of Atzilus. What does it mean? It's the oil of Bria. It means that there is a worldly element in this understanding. Like we always explain, that where do you see a worldly element in mitzvahs? In the fact that there is a part of the mitzvah is how you get to do it. Like on sukkah, you have to make a sukkah. The principle of making, of building, and putting things together, this is a worldly. This is due to worldly constraints, because from the perspective of Chochmei Lo, there is the reality directly. Just as in our own seichel, as we discussed many times, there is the seichel that we can grasp in worldly terms. That seichel, as we grasp it, we have a structure. You understand this because here is how it works out. This is the structure. The essential chayus, the essential oil, does not have a structure. This is something which we relate to because of the oil hanefesh, because of the chayus hanefesh, the life element. Life element is a direct godly presence. In Torah there is the seichel haTorah, the seichel element that have this is and the oil that is sensed in Torah is the oil. I said the oil that comes through the seichel process. This is and because this goes through the Malchus de Bria. The oil on Shoma the Malchus de Bria. And the Malchus, the principle of Malchus, is that it relates to Metzius. And this is why Torah can be ultimately described and presented in a Metzius manner, in Gashmis, in a Metzius form. Mitzvahs, on the other hand, is also Chochmei Lord Atzilus. But there the Chochmei Lord Atzilus comes directly. And what is sensed, the oil that is sensed there, is what's called the oil HaMakif. Oil HaMakif, meaning there is no grasp. In Torah there is a grasp. The Seichel of Torah, there's a grasp. How you do things and why do you do this way and what happens if you do it differently. For example, and for the other time, that we have Tefillin Shel Yad and Tefillin Shel Rosh, and the Shel Yad has to go on the hand before you put in Shel Rosh. This is representing a certain highest element, a certain oil element, but it is represented in our world in a structured manner. Mitzvah Shel Rosh has a certain level of kedusha, and Shel Yad has a certain level of kedusha, whatever it may be. The Shel Yad has to come on first, which is already a process that is well clearly understood in worldly terms. So there is a seichel element. There's the oil haseichel that is understandable within the worldly context. In mitzvahs, the oil in mitzvahs is oil makif, because ultimately the mitzvah is the final product, so to speak. The mitzvah is not how you put it on, but mitzvah is when if you put it on correctly, you have a mitzvah. But what you have is the mitzvah itself. This is a makif element. This is not something that can be grasped and said. So there, the atzilus comes represented and is sensed only in a makif sense. This is the mitzvah. Therefore, according to this, it comes out that mitzvahs have an element superior to Torah. In mitzvahs, you have the gilui of Chochmei Lo, the Atzilus, directly relate to it through a makif. In Torah, there is a pnimi, there's a slapshus element, a slapshus in Gashmis. I want to make it clear a little bit more. If there was no hislapshus in Gashmis, then the focus would be just on the end product. The Tefillin Shel Rosh would be on the hand, and the Tefillin Shel Yad should be on the hand. How you put them on makes a big difference. If there is an element that there is a difference how you put it on, which means it's hislapshus that big. The difference between Kedusha or Shel Rosh and Shel Yad has been translated in Gashmizik terms, in the worldly terms. Think that this is more Kedusha, then this comes first. This is already a logical thing that lends itself to understanding in worldly terms. Which means it's mislapshus in Gashmis.
So that last yes, the mitzvah is or is not mislavish in Gashmis?
Huh?
The mitzvah is yes or no mislavish in Gashmis?
The mitzvah itself is not.
So
The mitzvah is not. But the Torah presents it in a hislapshus.
So by tefillin, there is a difference which you put on first,
Right.
and that shows on its.
That shows that this Inyan is hislapshus in the world, so that it makes sense in worldly terms how you do it.
Makes sense in worldly terms. It's a mitzvah, so you just said it was or makif, so there's no.
No, we're talking about Torah now.
Oh.
Mitzvah is not how you do it. Mitzvah is that the film are on your head and on your head.
Oh, it's Torah how you do it. Even though it's a mitzvah of tefillin, it's Torah of the order, but mitzvah here just goes on the fact of having tefillin on.
Right.
Okay.
Maybe it's a sad question. What makes up? If you put the tefillin first and then afterwards the shariat first and sharash second, is that why is this called Torah? Why is it not called mitzvah? It's about the mitzvah.
Because it's not about a mitzvah. This is the right way to do it because the shorosh is more holy. So you put it, then the Seichel HaTorah says you should put it on first.
I meant to say
For instance, we give you a simple example. You put on the right foot, right shoe first, and the left shoe second. If you put it on the wrong way, are the shoes on your feet? Can you walk? Same thing.
the question is, when does something become Torah and when does something become mitzvah?
Torah is that which directs how you accomplish something, how you do it. The mitzvah is the final product. This is what you accomplish.
And when we speak about Torah and mitzvahs, I thought always that Torah mitzvah speaking Torah means the learning of Torah, and mitzvahs means the
What are you learning in Torah? You're learning about mitzvahs.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? That in Torah you learn how the mitzvah is mislabshus in the world, how you do it properly, that it should fit into the world.
And what about those mitzvahs that the Torah itself gives a reason? So reasoning is already as a subject of seichel. It's not that's all market.
That's all in Torah. You're still talking about Torah.
But it's more broken down, no?
What's the difference? You're talking about Torah, not mitzvah. The mitzvah is a mitzvah. Rambam says clearly that we are supposed to do mitzvahs because they are commands. And the reasons this is an error.
Yeah.
That's in order to be mislabshus that we should be able to relate to.
Okay, so you want to use this one? Okay, one second.
What's the matter? You can't. This phone is not doing it.
Okay. Apparently not. Bob's got a question. One second.
Oh,
Maybe you should read
what?
Maybe you read
Can you hear me?
Baruch, you have a question now?
I can hear you, but you can't hear me on the conference line.
Oh, on the conference line. That we had before. Okay, yes. Go ahead.
This question is a little bit from left field, and if that's too far in left field, you'll tell me. Why are we talking now about Torah coming from Chachmila of Atzilus? In other words, we learned before that it reaches much higher than that. But where did we get down to Chachmila of Atzilus? That's where things are coming from.
In order, it comes into everything comes through Atzilus. Even the Kesed is mislabish in Atzilus.
The which? The Kesser?
Yeah.
So all of this that we learned before about Tainig, right now we're not focused on that.
Right. This is we're trying to understand the difference between Torah and perhaps after we finish this we'll summarize it. I don't really want to go off track. Okay.
So when it's very quick. We use when the Zohar says that Raisa V'Shav Kul Echad, Raisa.
What?
You say that Raisa Kul Echad, it means that Raisa is a drop.
Okay, wait.
Does it mean Torah Emetzis?
No, wait. We are struggling to understand that which is mentioned here. Not. We'll see after we finish. If something is missing, we'll attend to it. All right.
We say Torah is how you accomplish things, and mitzvahs is what you accomplish, right? That was the original just said.
Well, yeah, the Torah of a mitzvah is how you do the mitzvah.
Torah Lushan Haruah, no? Is this to go together?
Yeah, there is Hero also in Aveda. Okay, 4 lines from the top. So we have now introduced where we're up to. Mekol Mokon yet still. Yesh gam ki maila batoira al ha-mitzvah. There's a maila in Torah over mitzvahs. Even though that, according to what we've concluded now, mitzvahs have a more direct representation, a greater oil comes into mitzvahs. It brings an oil market. Sharei, where do we see that Torah is superior to mitzvahs? First, there is just plain an indicator that we see that Hamoyer Shabo Machzir Lemut. The Gemara says that when one learns Torah, Hamoyer Shabo, the Moyer, the luminary element that is contained in Torah, Machzir Lemut, brings the person back to good. In other words, even if a person sinned, and even if a person is in a path of sin, if he learns Torah, the Torah will turn him around and bring him back to good. Now, which part in Torah, what did Gemara allude to in Torah? The Moyer element. The Moyer, this is Pan Oyer and Moyer. Oyer is how that expresses itself. And then there is also in Torah something which is higher the expression than the Moyer, the source of it. Hare, therefore we see there, Gam im Pogam Chas v'Shalom, that even if he created that damage, Pogam means a blemish. And what is this, as we discussed the other day? The Pagam is not merely that he had created impurity and so forth. The Pagam is something which creates a severance, a break between him and Elokus. So therefore this break is now, there's a severance. This break has to be reconnected in order for him to come back. So the Torah is able to bring it back. The moil that is contained in Torah brings him back to the good. And therefore it is a logical proof. Torah there's a mention. Torah is above mitzvahs. The mitzvah has been ignored, and therefore there is a pgam, and that cannot be corrected. And Torah can correct this pgam. In order to correct anything, you have to reach up to correcting anything, like we say all the time, that if you have a cut in your finger and the finger heals, the healing process is initiated by an element in your finger that has not suffered that damage. The finger, physical finger, where various aspects have suffered the damage, there's an element in the finger that has not been damaged by this cut, and this is able to bring back the healing. Therefore, the same thing, if you say that Torah Machzir L'Mutar, that means that Torah is has an element, a moyer element that has not been affected by the damage. It means it's higher from the mitzvahs. The and who? How do we understand this union? There's supremacy of Torah. Hine ha-mitzvahs hey l'rotzen ha'elyon. Because the mitzvahs are the rotzen ha'elyon. This is the will from above. This inyan that the mitzvahs are rotzen ha'elyon, the Rebbe explains, it means haino etzem ha'rotzen. It means the rotzen, the essential rotzen. Shein ta'am l'rotzen. Klal. The rotzen that does not have ta'am l'rotzen, there is no ta'am for this rotzen. Klal. Somebody's chair is squeaking. I think it's going to be recorded in your...
Happens.
Happens. Then you can change it. Okay. So again, this we have already discussed it very briefly. The principle of Etzem HaRotzen, the essence of Rotzen. Again, been mentioned many times, the concept, the principle of Etzem is something which does not lend itself to be expressed in Seichel. Seichel is not Etzem. Seichel, the way we have it, Seichel, as we said before, Seichel means it discusses structure. Etzem has no structure. It's not based on structure. When you say it has no reason, already you're bypassing Seichel. Seichel means why is this? That's Seichel. How does this work? That's Seichel. What's first and what's second? That's Seichel. So Etzem HaRotzen, it's there because it's there. This is something which we cannot focus in and we cannot express in Seichel. What we can do, and this is imperative that we do, is to understand the principle behind it. If it has no time, no reason, where is it coming from?
That's already Seichel.
Doctor?
That's already Seichel. Where is it coming from? That's not Seichel.
To understand where it's coming from itself is not possible. It ain't Tam Rotzen. There is no. But is Rotzen a presence or it's not a presence? So this is Rotzen. It's a will. It's a presence. It's an active presence. Where is this? What's behind this active presence? So we're saying that the ear from the Etzem HaRotzen, where is it coming from? It comes from the Etzem itself. It's representing the Etzem itself. Which means that because the Etzem is whatever the Etzem is, this is why he has this Rotzen. This is the pshat that this is Rotzen, Etzem HaRotzen. To define the Rotzen that we are talking about, because normally will is something which is very common experience, and normally I want has a background, a reason. We can't even conceptualize what it means. What is Etzem HaRotzen? What's Etzem HaRotzen? What kind of Rotzen is it? Rotzen means I want. It means something has to cause this want. And Rotzen, by definition, is an active state. It's not a passive state. But something exists. This is an actual expression. I want this. Rotzen. The word Rotzen also, in Chassidus explained, the word Rotzen is related to the word ritzo, to run, to go out of oneself. What is this Rotzen? So we have discussed the other day, over these weeks, we talked about etzem. We said a rock is like an etzem. And Chassidus says that a doimim, a rock, is actually indicative of atzmus, because only atzmus can create something that has not relate to anything. It's just an entity unto itself. But then we pointed out, you have to understand, the rock is only indicative of atzmus, but it's not an atzmi at all. Because this rock is not even aware that it exists. Doesn't know aware what it is. How can it be an atzmi? An atzmi means that yes, he is there, is truth, but he wants to be what he is. He identifies what it is. So, mitzvah is called etzem harotzon. Etzem harotzon means this is what Elokus wants because it's Elokus, not because of any inference or influence other than the Rotzon. A moshel for Rotzon Atzmi Bayas is the Rotzon Lichyos, the Rotzon to live. Now the Rotzon to live is not a reaction to the thought of not living. I want to live because I don't want not to live. That's not the Rotzon Lichus. The reason I want to live is because I'm alive. And being alive is a reality all in itself. Being alive is not a stepping stone to something else. It's a reality in and of itself. Because in being alive, there is and we said all the time, there's a godly presence in it, there's a godly sense in it. It's a reality, an absolute reality all in itself. This is why we always point out that a person, as long as he's alive, even if he is totally dysfunctional, it's impossible, he has no koiches to do anything. As long as he's alive, he is a full-fledged human being, living. And to touch him and to shorten this faint living element is tantamount to murder. Because the human presence, human life in the world is not measurable by functionality. It's the reality of his being and living in this world. This is what he contributes to the world more than anything else. Because his being, his living, is a godly living. So he brings godliness into the world by being alive.
It's a mashal from Ratzon Atzmi.
This is like Ratzon Atzmi. But being alive, he brings godliness into the world. As we explained many times, that a human being, his life is in a totally different category than the life of all other creatures. All other creatures, their life is basically identifiable by their living body. It's a living body. The human being is life independent of the body, except it's expressed in the body. It's life in the body. What is this life? This life is the godly presence. Now that we got so much, let me try and kind of fill in certain gaps that may be missing. That life, the animal is a living body. In what way is he alive? So we can't identify life per se, but in what way do we see that he's alive? He's constantly seeking to satisfy his bodily needs. And he reacts to anything negative to his bodily well-being. This is life. When we say that a human being has life per se, independent of the body, which means also that he is alive, it means he's also seeking life. But what kind of life is he seeking? He's seeking a life that is expressed in life. This is why I said that he is connected to godliness. He is seeking a life that is expressed in living. The godly presence is expressed in living. And this is what he is seeking. This is the pshat that the human being is a life in a body. Which means life, he is also constantly seeking something. He wants to live. He is seeking something. What does he want? He wants to live. And what does it mean he wants to live? Not live in the body. He wants to live. He wants to live. He wants the life element, the truth of life. He wants to be the conscious, the connection to the source of life. This is what he wants to live. This is what the Rambam says. That the first principle in a living human being is that there is a first being. This is what he's connected to, inherently. This is what life is. There is nothing, no influence extraneous to the Rotzen that brings it Rotzen. The Rotzen is because I am alive and this is why I want to live. Because being alive itself is a truth in and of itself. Because this life that we have in Neshama, that we experience, is a truth in and of itself. Because this life is a life that says, I want to be connected to the source of life. That's what this life is. The animal wants to have things in the world. It is bodily experience. The human being, his life consists in his desire. Rotzen is to experience life. It's a completely different thing. For him to contemplate and recognize godliness in his life, there cannot be anything greater, any more superior. This is what he is living about. This is what his life is about.
Only because we spoke about this so many times,
yeah.
So even a scientist who comes to a conclusion where the world came from, for safe, even Big Bang Theory, the worst, but self, where's this she'ifa desire to find where it came from? That in itself comes from the neshama, but it's I guess the outcome of it is wrong, but the she'ifa, the desire to find your source, even though you make a big mistake, what is the essence desire is this essence thing in any person.
Well, I hear what you're saying. There is that element, but unfortunately, over there it is the opposite.
The results are the opposite, but the she'ifa, I'm saying, the outcome is the opposite, but the she'ifa, if you're not, even may not aware, that may be coming from the etzem thing that you're alive. No? Okay, fine.
Yeah, there is truth, and it's in. I said even in the she'ifa, there's already an opposite in it. He senses that he comes from God, but he can't stand it. So he's looking to reinterpret this in some kind of way that it becomes his presence.
Okay.
So there is.
I hear.
What is Sheifa?
and,
Desire, goal,
Desire? What is it?
This is
it says my one.
inside. We're
Okay,
we're
let's
on,
go.
Which line? So
Okay, so Rotzen no Elin, we are on 7 lines from the top. Rotzen no Elin, Rotzen Etzem or Rotzen Shein Tam le Rotzen Klau. Ain't Tam le Rotzen.
the mitzvahs that this is
One
all.
second.
Sorry,
Let me just.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, the Rebbe wants we should have tefillin on our head, because the Rebbe wants to be here with us. Why? This is the Rotzen no Elin. He allows his name to be written on parchment, and you put in a box, and we put it on our head, and we know what's going on in our head, and yet that's what the Rebbe wants.
That's very
Descriptive.
illustrative, descriptive. Very.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You want to?
No, it's- the Ratzon Lichios was the mashal for this Etzem Ratzon, but the Nimshal, the mitzvahs, the Ratzon Lichios is like there's no form to it. It's just he wants to be connected to the source of life, the source of his life. But mitzvahs have this, like the mitzvahs have a tzir. All the mitzvahs have a form, and therefore, that's my question.
Rotzen Lichyois has a much broader expression. That is the Rotzen, that is the answer to the Rotzen. And from this essential Rotzen comes the entire human experience. When he opens his eyes and says, "This is the real world," that's part of Rotzen Lichyois. Part of this rotzen of relating to reality.
We say now that this rotzen, this etzem rotzen, that it's Eibster wants to be with us, and we said that it could be cut off, Chas v'sholom. And then Torah has something to restore that.
If we pogam to Afghan, that's what the whole Torah is constantly warning us. Do not transgress because you're going to sever this relationship.
You will not allow his want to
Come
manifest.
forth, to manifest, yeah. So this rotzen is the etzem rotzen shein tam rotzen. The Torah, and Torah on the other hand, is pirush or biur hamitzvos. This is what explains and clarifies and lays it all out and discusses the mitzvahs. B'bchinas tam rotzen, in a manner of tam rotzen, of giving the rotzen a certain kind of a tam. Shezehu, and this union that Torah discusses in a manner of tam rotzen, shezehu k'mei sheharotzen bo b'bchinas chochma v'tam. This is a different, a lower rung of the stage of the rotzen. This is how the rotzen is actually expressed in a tam and a chochma tam. We were just now talking about you have to put on the shel yad before the shel rosh. Why? Because shel rosh is a higher kedusha. That's tam. This whole union doesn't exist in rotzen Elul itself. But as it comes down, there is tam l'rotzen. Shel rosh, there's 4 pashiyos, it's more choshev, it goes on the head, This is done the hand. This has to do with the brain. This has to do with the heart. It's a higher kedusha. This is all Torah definitions. As a matter of fact, the interesting thing is, as we're talking, the two mitzvahs of Shal Yad and Shal Rosh are two separate mitzvahs. And you can perform one without the other. The person does not have a head, the person that will not have a head. The person doesn't have a Shal Rosh, he puts on the hand tefillah.
Yeah, but we only say one bracha.
We only say one bracha. We put them both on and at the same time. And if you make a half sig, you have to make a second bracha. And some people make a second bracha every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Yeah. No, we don't celebrate those holidays. We're not familiar. Thanks for telling us. Okay.
It's not from the Etzem Eretz.
Huh?
That's a joke. It's not from the Etzem Eretz.
So I want to again emphasize and say the word tam l'rotzen. This is k'mei she'horotzen bo b'bchinas chochma v'tam. It is the state where the rotzen comes in chochma aspect and in tam aspect. B'chitzonis in our world.
He's asking Tom, not the Tom.
Tam means reason, the way we translate it. So I want we should understand that is a very superficial aspect. Because in the physical world, nothing is influenced by anything else. If I pick up this watch and I bring it here, the watch is not aware of this. So therefore, yes, how come the watch is here? Was just here because now it's here, or because I brought it over? That's the reason. Why do I bring it over? Because I wanted to have it closer to me so I could see it. Nothing to do with the watch at all. So this, I said, in our world, this is not the reason. How did this happen? Because of this. But that is a very, very stripped down meaning of time. In our physical world, this is what time is. But really,
time is reason. The word reason is not the concept of reason. It's a reason, like an explanation for something. It's not the concept of reason. It's not rational.
Well, in the physical world, you would say the cause. How come it happens?
Okay.
What's the reason that it's dark at night?
Because Hashem created darkness.
Oh, wait. You were floating away someplace in that series. What's the reason it's dark at night? Be practical, my dear friend.
Because there's no light.
Because the sun is on the other side of the earth, and its ray does not penetrate the earth. That's why it's dark. That's it. Neither the sun nor the earth know how come it's like that. It just happened to be like that. That's the reason. So this is reason in our worldly in worldly experience. We go down to the very minimum. Then, however, we have a human being, and we have seichel, and we have nefesh, and then we have Torah. And we know that the word tam is a much richer base to it. The word tam means taste. Literally, the word tam means taste.
It also means reason.
Huh?
It also means reason.
Reason.
Means reason.
Reason. I'm saying reason is a derivative of that. Reason is the chitzonius of that.
Uh-huh.
The etzem word tam means tam. What is the reason that you play your drums? Because it has a tam. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We will always have difficulty with understanding these things like rotzen and tam because we are completely physically oriented. And by us there's nothing that exists except something that made it happen. But this is what we are constantly repeating and emphasizing. We are talking about a godly reality, which is true in and of itself. It's a first being, nothing caused it to be. And there is tam, then there is rotz, there is oinek, an essential oinek, that's tam. And then there is how this oinek translates in seichel, in chokhmah, that becomes reason. But it's all on that level. Even chokhmah, as we always explain, chokhmah, what is the greatness of chokhmah? Chokhmah brings it down to the level of reason, but it brings it down to the level of reason in a tam manner, because chokhmah is actually sensing the oinek oil in it. In Chokhmah it doesn't become a reason, because Chokhmah does not argue out, why do I do this? It can do it. It says, here's what it's about. Because Chokhmah is still sensing the tam, the taste element, the oinek element. So this is what Torah is. Torah brings down the mitzvah, brings out the tam l'rotz. What's mean tam l'rotz? Like I said, if you put on film, Shel Rosh and Shel Yad, we feel the sense of it. We feel better putting on the Shabbat first and the Shabbat second. If we are sensitive to a nefesh tam, because we always know that the choshev thing has to come second. The halacha says that a Rav has to be the one who comes in shul the last and the first to leave. This is part of Koved HaRav. So he doesn't have to wait until everybody gathers. He comes in after the minyan is ready, he comes in. Don't just stand and wait until the minyan is ready. And then, as soon as the minyan is over, he doesn't have to wait till everybody leaves. He's the first one to leave. It's part of the Koved. It's not a necessary thing. It doesn't make practical difference.
It's a halacha, you said?
Huh?
It's a halacha.
Yeah.
We have work to do.
Nichnas achterin v'yotzev rishon. What?
We have work to do.
LIFO. This is the principle of LIFO. Those who are familiar with.
That's the first half.
Yeah. Computer reads LIFO. With all this, okay, it's not. This is there is an inherent Koved element in this. There's inherent a tam to it. That's what a tam. This is how it's mislabish in Chochmah. In Chochmah it comes out this way. Without oinek, it cannot be translated in any practical manner. The oinek principle is you have to be mechaber the Rav. In Chochmah presents already the manner how that translates. That's what tam. In Torah, is taking the mitzvahs and being mevara the mitzvahs bebechinas chochma v'tam. The way the Rotzen expresses itself in chochma v'tam. That we said the whole time. How do you put on tefillin shalosh? Tefillin shalosh first, Shabbat first. Tefillin shalosh second, because tefillin shalosh is choshev. And so forth. Okay, and therefore, from this perspective, ha-mitzvah is gebeim mitoiro. The mitzvahs are superior to Torah, because the mitzvahs, this is the Yatzama mitzvah, the Yatzama Rotzen itself. And Torah is how this Rotzen is already mislabish and comes down in Tam Rotzen. Again, we have to be extremely sensitive and understand. When you say Tam Rotzen, you're already speaking on the Rotzen at a lower level than the essential Rotzen. The essential Rotzen means this is just the truth itself. It doesn't lend itself to be Tam Rotzen, like in this case, is because when the Rotzen is being appreciated, being recognized at a different level than in the essential state, in a practical level, how you do it, then you could see that there's a difference. There's a Tam Rotzen. But in essence, this is the essential Rotzen.
So yet the Torah can bring a person Matzir L'Muta, which is...
Wait, you're jumping around. Okay, so that's what I was trying to explain. V'hagam the tamei hamitzvah shebeteira. Although that the tamei hamitzvahs, the taste of the mitzvahs, the oinex of the mitzvahs, the reason of the mitzvahs, that is contained in Torah, ein ze bechinas tam v'seichel levad. This is not the element of tam v'seichel, a seichel diki element. Just a seichel means a cause and effect type of thing. It is not just tam v'seichel. Kiyim bechinas tam v'oinek. But it is the tam that's in Torah is not just tam v'seichel, lavad. It's mislabish and seichel, but it's not only tam v'seichel, but also bechinas tam v'oinek. And being that it is tam oinek, oinek is really a nefesh element. It's not a seichel dikinim. This is part. Oinek, there is also oinek atzmi. Kumei hatam b'soid havaya, like the tam b'soid havaya, and the godly presence b'chol mitzvah that is contained in a mitzvah. Shezeho hakavon pnimis, which is the kavona pnimis that is in the mitzvah. And this is the tam that Torah brings out, is the kavona pnimis that's in the mitzvah. So, coming back to our tefillin example. The kavona pnimis in tefillin shel rosh is the Shabbat hamayach. One pnimis of the tefillin shel yad is the Shabbat halev. Now Shabbat hamayach is a higher element than Shabbat halev. moyach is a higher koyach ha'od, a nefesh. So therefore, mitzad the tam pnimi, mitzad the pnimi of the rotzen, there is this tam that the shol rosh has a greater chshivas than the shol yad. So this is still, we're just touching the surface here.
This is a higher element than he's bringing out that this kavana pnimis is a higher element than tam v'seichel levad.
Yeah. All the pnimis, this is the life element of this.
What do you mean by the light element?
Life.
Life.
We'll have to stay limited a little bit. Now, a piece seichel, this is the way a seichel we can do. That which is more choshev has to be given special recognition. The seichel we can do. And therefore, if the shol rosh is more choshev than shol yad, it has to be recognized. It's be handled with a different deference. And therefore, if you're going to put on the shayot and shayot, you're going to put on the shayot first, so that when the rosh comes, the whole thing is ready. The rosh doesn't have to wait for anything else. The whole thing is ready. That's it from this way. There are many aspects of this. Then there is the union from tam va'oimek. The oinig in this whole thing of that we're talking about tefillah, for example, is that the oil eliki, the kedusha eliki, should be permeate the moyach. There is shibud hamoyach v'alev, the subjugation and so on, but ultimately that the kedusha eliki should permeate the moyach and permeate the heart. Even though it is possible to put on the shol rosh by itself. But as I said, if you have both, you have to put on shayat first. Because the goal and the effect of permeating the kedusha and the kiss in the moyach is in order to bring it down to the heart. Because the moyach, this is the moyach. The moyach gives chayes to the whole human being. Moyach is not an entity unto itself. So therefore, the oineg, I'm just giving an idea. The oineg in this mitzvah of tefillah is expressed in Chochmah in a manner that it says, okay, the lev has to be ready when the shol yad comes, when the shol rosh comes up, so that it can permeate the whole mitzvah. Just to get a sense of this. So tam be'oineg, tam be'seichel, and tam be'oineg are related to one another. The seichel is the chitzonius, and tam be'oineg, this is the pnimius of it. This is the reality itself. Oineg and Rotzen, as we spoke in the past, Oineg and Rotzen, the Rebbe explains, are on par in terms of their relationship, the power and the nefesh. But their expression is totally different. The Rotzen is just a statement of will. The Oineg is an experience of the nefesh. And this is why this is becoming a tam, because it really does have that effect. It really makes, even when you say the word to make sense, also means that I can relate to it. When you have an oineg, you can relate to it. The Torah presents in the mitzvah the tam oineg of the mitzvah. Like you say, kavonas are mitzvah. The Torah says that the kavonas of mitzvah is film and sukkah and all that. That gives a different sense of the mitzvah. It's an oineg in the mitzvah. That becomes a tam in the mitzvah. All right, enough said for today. Have a good day. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We can discuss it. We can make up to learn tomorrow a quarter after 6, because Slicha is going to be a quarter to 7. Okay. Now making up and waking up are not one and the same thing.
We did it last year. It was very successful.
Okay. We have a witness over here that's successful, so we will attempt. We will go for it.
It's a shame.
So 6:15.
Very good.